In 50 BC, the Gauls were conquered by the Romans after a long struggle. Leaders were forced to lay down their arms at Caesar's feet. All of Gaul is occupied. All of it? No. For there's one area vigorously resisting the invader, a small area surrounded by entrenched Roman camps. Here's where we meet our hero, the warrior Asterix. Today on the Comic Book Report, Asterix Omnibus Volume 1 from Papercutz. Stick around and check it out. Greetings and welcome in everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I've got a really fun video for all of you. This has been one of the most requested read to be reviewed on the channel books I've had in the history of this channel, particularly from my European watchers. This is Asterix, and this is my first taste of this amazing series, and wow did I have a ton of fun with it. Before we dive into today's review though, I do want to just shout out Papercutz for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review. And as always, I'd also like to shout out the channel sponsor, Panelbound Comics. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link to them in the video's description, and if you see anything site-wide you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to receive $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now on with the show. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The stories in this volume were written by René Goscinny, with art from Albert Uderzo. The stories in this volume were published beginning all the way back in 1959. Papercutz did publish this hardcover edition in 2020. The volume itself collects the stories Asterix the Gaul, Asterix and the Golden Sickle, and Asterix and the Goths. This hardcover edition has beautiful glossy print paper stock, what appears to be a sewn binding, and a total of 152 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover for today's hardcover collection. I should note that Papercutz also has a paperback collection, I believe collecting the same stories, but in this edition up top we have the names of the creators, we have Asterix, followed by a fun little picture there, then it shows what it collects actually. It shows all three of the classic graphic novels, and down at the bottom we do have the publisher's logo, Papercutz. Transitioning to the spine now, I have to say I really like the spine designs on these sets. We do have the Papercutz logo up top, Asterix in that stylized font. We have what books it collects, or just 1, 2, and 3. We have the creators, we have the logo again, and then we have a little silhouette of Asterix and a volume 1 at the bottom. I think this arrays all the information we need on a very aesthetically pleasing spine. Really like the design here from Papercutz. On the back cover, we have two of the central characters here, Asterix and his friend Obelisk, in front of, well, a stone obelisk of sorts that has a description about the collection. We do have pricing information, the publisher, again, all good things here. It's a pretty, I don't want to say stark background, but it's not densely populated with text or anything. Honestly, I think it is really nice looking, and overall, I really do like the graphic design on this hardcover book. And now for all you prospective collectors out there, a quick look at this book's binding. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I believe it's a sewn binding, if I'm not mistaken. It is pretty tightly bound. I don't really have like an eye in this collection after reading it through, but it's small enough that the pages still laid down fairly well, and with white borders around nearly everything, there was very little to no gutter loss in the collection. I certainly didn't have any complaints, and you'll be able to look a little bit more in further detail as I flip through. And now one final thing of note before we dive into today's collection. I wanted to do a size comparison because this hardcover edition is a unique size format. It's a little bit shorter than a standard size trade paperback that you can see here that I have for comparison with Man's Best from Boom Studios. So you can see the trim size, it doesn't go as tall, but it is wider. It kind of favors that more boxy format, just shrunken down from what I'm used to seeing. This is, again, a fun size. I don't know that I would consider it a digest sized, but it is a hardcover that's smaller than a standard size in some respects and not in others. Anyway, because of its unique size, I definitely wanted to show this size comparison to give you an idea. Here you can see the spine against the spine, and next to a standard size trade paperback, the trim size isn't that much shorter, but I still wanted to give you this visual comparison as you think about what this would look like in your library. Okay, and with that out of the way, we can go ahead and start jumping into today's collection. And opening today's book, we are treated immediately by one of the most beautiful end pages I've ever seen, showcasing our colorful cast of characters. After which, we have the front matter for this collection, including some title pages, publication information page, solicits for other work, and ultimately a bit of a preview of the characters that you're going to see in the collection, a map, things like that. And then before too long, we do jump into Asterix the Gaul, which is the first of 3 stories included in this first hardcover omnibus edition. I should say as well, I believe some of these early stories were initially released serialized, and they were not initially in English to my knowledge, so this was translated once upon a time. So I mentioned earlier in this video, this is one of the most requested properties I have been requested to review throughout the history of this channel, and I was really eager to finally check it out. After reading these first 3 graphic novels, I instantly see why this is such a beloved property. This is certainly a for all ages kind of comic, but I think more adult readers will get more of the humor that's baked in here. I'm really impressed at the translation. I can't speak to the original language, but there's so many things, down to the names of a lot of the characters, that seem to rely on kind of puns, which to me seems so linked to the language itself, and the fact that that has translated in, at least in some way in English, it just really is a wonder to me. I am curious how brilliant this is in the native language it was written in. At any rate, let me set some context for this work in case you're unaware. This takes place, in those early BC years at a point where the kingdom of Gaul, or the country or what have you, is being occupied by Rome. Rome is this gigantic empire that's basically just conquering everywhere around them, and we have this small little refuge village or town in the Gaul community, I guess we'll say, that is not necessarily overrun by the Romans. It's kind of the last stronghold or holdout. Because of that, they're surrounded by all sides by the air quotes enemy, and we have Asterix as our primary hero, along with his friend Obelisk, the town kind of shaman figure, I guess I'll say, and then just the other townsfolk. And we basically have one of the central characters create this potion that if you drink it every day, you get superhuman strength. And that's certainly the case here with Obelisk. He is someone who drinks this potion and just becomes empowered every day. And basically his friend was always empowered due to some kind of mishap with this at one point. And the two of them get into all sorts of shenanigans and misadventures, often to fight for the rights of their community, to stave off the Roman invaders, and to just have various kinds of hijinks, I would say. In this first story, we're introduced to our primary cast. We're introduced to these kind of Roman leadership that are trying to encroach on their town. And we get to see Asterix showcase his feats of strength, and let's call it wisdom, to basically fend off these Roman characters. What I really like about this is this really does lean on like situational irony in a kind of tongue-in-cheek way that I enjoyed. Like I said, the humor throughout this is very evident, from the puns to just the situations, and I loved it. The art style is absolutely gorgeous, and while I haven't seen the original printings, I do think the reproductions or reprints here are gorgeous. The art is very wonderfully done. The colors are vibrant and lush, and everything just feels really beautiful on this glossy print paper stock. In fact, I think my only negative about this collection in general is that the size of it I wish was just a little bigger. Now, I do think Asterix was printed in an oversized format at some point, which these are not. I think that that is the only drawback, is some of the dialogue boxes and stuff. It's just a little bit smaller than I maybe prefer, but it was still readily readable for me, and I still had a great ride. Beyond that, I think this collection was still extremely well produced, and I had a blast making my way through these 3 early adventures. So after this first adventure, we do have Asterix and the Golden Sickle, where their friend who makes the potions every day basically needs a golden sickle to harvest these ingredients as part of his recipe to make this special potion. Well, he gets these golden sickles from a very specific sickle maker in another city, and so here we go off on our way with Asterix and Obelisk trying to go into this neighboring town because the sickle maker is a cousin of sorts to Obelisk. They go there seeking him to buy a golden sickle so their friend can make more of this potion for Asterix and anyone else who may need it. Along the way, though, they find out that all is not right in this town. In fact, the sickle maker is missing, presumed kidnapped or worse, and there seems to be kind of this organized crime racket going on in this community, and it's up to Asterix and Obelix to basically find the missing cousin, get the golden sickle, and generally thwart the forces of evil, all of which does occur by the end of this story's adventure. Each of these stories, I should say as well, are around 50 pages, so they think they're really well sized. They don't necessarily overstay their welcome, but you get a full, complete story with each of these little graphic novels, and the fact that this omnibus edition includes 3 is just, like I said, a treat. I think it's a great bang for your buck, because you get 3 completely standalone stories. The third story in this collection is Asterix and the Goths, which have Asterix, the Gaul people, kind of battling with this neighboring kingdom of Goths. We also have our potion maker kind of having an annual conference, with all these other sort of sorcerers trying to basically be the most prestigious that year. A lot of misadventures here. That's a ton of fun. Another wrinkle within the story seems to be, or generally the stories, is that the Roman Empire and other people are trying to find the potion or the secrets of the potion to use it for their own military or their own leadership. And along the way, again, Asterix, Obelix, and team just kind of thwart this opportunity at every side. But the humor throughout, like I said, is such a leading thing in this series, and I just found it as engaging as all can be. The art here from Uderzo as well is just absolutely gorgeous. This is such a cartoonist, newsprint kind of style that I loved. It is just so richly animated. The character models are just perfectly distinct, lively, and just scream of so much talent here. Like I said, this is a for all ages read. I think you can give this to young children and they could still enjoy it. I think that this would lend itself certainly to like an animated sequence of shorts, you know. I just really, really love it. The writing is so sharp, and like I said, I'm just so curious what the original language was like, because it feels very, very well structured and very tightly written in such a profound way. Like I said, the humor is baked in even to the language, and the fact that I can pick up on this in the translation makes me just kind of yearn for that original source material. But I am still deeply satisfied with what we have here from Papercutz. After some brief extras, including a little essay that you just saw and some other great end pages, that really brings us to the end of this first omnibus edition. I should note Papercutz does have several volumes in this line, collecting subsequent Asterix graphic novels, and I believe both hardcovers like this and paperbacks. And that is really just a couple of my thoughts on this incredible collection. I do plan to read more Asterix, but I'd love to hear from you. Are you a fan of this property? Have you read it in either English or its original language? Let me know all of that in the comments section, and let's go ahead and give this a grade. For one of the best kind of cartoony animated comic strips I've ever had the pleasure of reading, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Asterix Omnibus Volume 1 from Papercutz an A-. I understand why this is such a foundational and timeless work, and now that I've read this, I am eager to read more volumes in this line. Well constructed, great dialogue, fantastic characterizations, and visually rich, Asterix is a property to be enjoyed and encountered by all comic fans out there, at least in my estimation. A fantastic all-ages read that even as a grown man, I am still finding so many ways to enjoy. But like I said earlier, these are just a couple of my thoughts. I would love to hear all of yours. What do you think of Asterix? What did you think of this review? Let me know all of that in the comments, and a huge thank you again to those at Papercutz for sending this over for review. And as always, of course, a huge thank you to all of you for taking this journey right along with me. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, those comments we talked about, and maybe share this video with a friend. Every little bit helps. Thanks everyone. Bye.